service today, and that is the expounding of the word, because I believe where the Bible says in Psalms that the entrance of the word brings forth light. And you know light brings wisdom. Light is synonymous with wisdom. And this kind of light that I'm going to speak about today is going to move you from religion to relationship. From religion to relationship. And you're going to hear all about it. I sent a special invite to Angelo last night because I wanted him to specifically hear this word, especially in the context of what we were discussing earlier. The Lord has impressed upon his life and is continuing to impress upon his life, and I thought while I was preparing this word, I need to send you a word to say, come today. This is going to be your culmination of the waiting. Culmination of your waiting. You're not going to hear this word anyway. You might have heard its title before. The title is called Launch Out into the Deep. Launch out into the deep. And I guarantee you this is a message with a difference. I want you to pay particular attention to every word that I speak, because what I'm going to share with you is going to be meaningful in impacting your life going forward. Say to your neighbor, I'm never going to be the same. In Jesus' name. If you have your Bibles, turn with me to Luke chapter 5, verse 1 to 7. We want to apologize for our late coming today. The cook brought the food and we have to now try and do a juggling act this morning with it. So I'm going to ask my wife to get ready to go. But Patricia, would you man that station for us in terms of showing this picture? Whilst I'm at that point, before we go into God's way, I want to thank Patricia and Alicia. They came back and they set the tables. I'm not sure Charmaine were part of that group last night in setting up, even late after their service, so that we could have a set up environment today to have lunch. Amen. So after praying, after fasting, there must be feasting. Okay? So that's what we're going to do after the service. But right now, we're going to feast on the Word of God. Luke chapter 5, verse 1 to 7. Now it came to pass, while the multitude pressed upon him and heard the Word of God, that he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, and he saw two boats standing by the lake. But the fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. And he entered into one of the boats, which was Simon's, and asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the multitudes out of the boat. Let's just continue. Verse 4. And when Houston, we have a problem. And when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, put out into the deep, and let down your nets for a draught. Verse 5. And Simon answered and said, Master, we toiled all night and took nothing. But at thy word
multitude of fishes, and their nets were breaking. And they beckoned unto their partners in the other boat that they should come and help them. And they came and filled both the boats so that they began to sink. Verse 8. But Simon Peter, when he saw it, fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. For he was amazed, and all that were with him, at the draught of the fishes which they had taken. We're going to go up to verse 11. And so were also James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said unto Simon, Fear not, from henceforth thou shalt catch men. And when they had brought their boats to land, they left all and followed him. They left all and followed him. I said the subtitle to this message is, We're moving from religion to relationship. One of the things that this message that has been spoken widely and too many times on our circuit, I can guarantee you, you must have heard this message a countless times already, being preached in so many diverse manners. And today I want to give you another angle to this message that will bring such a reawakening, a renaissance in your thinking. It's going to tickle your fancy, but at the same time, it's going to sink home the reality of who we are right at the beginning of 2018. You see, the time has come. The time has come in the beginning of this new year when we hear all kinds of messages that being portrayed from this pulpit and others in a similar fashion, that we would be able to get a message that will preserve and sustain us throughout the year. So we're waiting for a clear word as to what is the Lord saying in this time and this hour. And when we look at Luke chapter 5, I think it paves the way for clear words to be expressed in our lives in order that we may be able to tangibly hold on to something, to be able to center and align our lives in such a method that we be able to get going quickly off the mark. Last week I spoke, and the week before, the title of my message was On Your Marks. That was done in preparation of getting you to align yourself, getting you in readiness to receive the ministry that's going to be trusted in your hands. And so what I did, I called a workers' meeting immediately. I called a workers' meeting and I got people to come in and say, where would they like to work in this church? Which departments would they like to occupy? And just not occupy, but work. And so we're in the throes of rehashing names, and there's still an opportunity for those of you who have not been at that workers' meeting to come forward and say, Pastor, I'm putting my hands up. After today's message, I believe the Lord has spoken, and I want to be used in this particular fashion. And so we will be able to consider you, and today is the deadline. So we've heard this message being spoken from evangelistic trust. What many of the pastors do is to be able to use this word to be able to get the evangelistic trust in many of their believers, their congregants, in order that right at the beginning of the year, that they would go out and get serious about saving souls. Remember, having a church is not housing people. There's a difference. Call them home and keep them for the weekend. I would say if that's your intention. But having a church is to be able to mobilize, is to be able to take somebody who's a nobody and be able to give them the keys to life and to be able to send them forth and say, go forth and multiply and become fishers of men. Not to come and warm pews, not to come and be ordinary and believers that will come and go as a ritual and believe that you have religion and that's good enough to take you where you need to go. It is time when the church needs to embark on a revolutionary, spirit-led, soul-winning escapade in an unprecedented manner. I want to say this in English now. What I'm saying is, it's time for the bench warmers to get off being the spectators and become the participators. That when you start to look at Luke chapter 5, the Bible says, what you saw, the picture that was dramatized for us, was there were boats, but they were empty. And then on the other side, we see men washing nets in preparation for their next task. And on that backdrop this morning, I said for an unprecedented mission that we would go forth and accomplish great and mighty things. So what we see empty chairs. That's those empty boats. What we see is empty lives. That's our empty boats. We see all of these things. We see all of these things that are in our natural eye an impediment, an eyesore. Because the purpose of those boats this morning, or in that particular case, the purpose of those boats were that they needed to be full of fish. I mean, why do you have a fishing boat if it's not going to go out and launch itself into the sea and not bring back a catch? I ask this of you, my congregants, this morning. What purpose is this soul that lies deep within yourself? Its intention was that we would go out. Remember, Jesus made us fishers of men. I mean, I cannot fathom this. And that is why I wrote this message this morning. What intention do you have to have a body that is empty, to have a soul that is empty, and you have nothing to show for it, when its intention was that you become fishers of men? And you would see men and women perishing right before your very own eyes and think, that's not my job, that's the pastor's job. I was even cautioned the other day, Pastor, are you not worried about the empty chairs? No, I'm not worried about the empty chairs. Man, let me give you my defense to that. Noah worked 120 years. You know how many people got saved? Only 8. He preached till he was blue in the face. And you judge me for my empty chairs. I say to you this morning, what use is a vessel if its intention is to be able to harvest fish and it lies there barren? Church, I just can't believe that when the day of judgment comes and when the Lord says, where's your product of your work, your good work on the face of the earth? Lord, I didn't save anybody. I did not go out and evangelize, because we had evangelists for that. We had the pastor for that. We had people, we had the evangelistic team. We had the events team making sure that these things happen. I can guarantee you today, there's not going to be a well done, my good and faithful servant, enter into your rest. I'm not sure what kind of rest you're going to rest your soul in. But without making you feel just one bit guilty about where you've been thus far, let me draw this message to get to the crux of it, in order for me to emphasize the point and show you the misconceptions that we've lived all our lives in such an haphazard way. You see, I believe that we need to start doing the work of God. People are having empty boats, and there's people that are washing nets that did not even bring a catch. You know, when I look at that example, it teaches me about wasted resources. There are people sitting in church that they are doing stuff that has no meaningful input into the running of the church. There are many people that will stand on the touchline and judge and start to hurl abuse and start to say, but this church is not doing enough. This church will remain the size. Listen, I can't be bothered about all the negativity. What I'm interested in is those souls that will come and say, Lord, you placed us here, and you placed a burden in our hearts. And so I know the reason that you put me into contact with this man, because he's going to get me there quicker than I imagined. Just like Jesus. When he walked up to that boat, he saw the barrenness. He saw the empty boats that lay there without purpose. He saw people doing work that did not ever require a reward. Washing nets that didn't even have smelly fish in it. And I want to warn against those people that will come into church just so that they will do a work. In the workers' meeting, I address this. That we are a mission outreach kind of ministry. That's our call. And if we're not getting out there in the boiling hot sun with our t-shirts that says, that spelled out that we are serious about drawing near to God, I'm saying to you today, if we cannot get out there and accomplish the work of the Lord, then we are doing work. We are washing nets. And actually, we are just wasting time. We are doing things ritualistically. Go out into the sea and wash the salt out of the nets. That's what you're doing. Come to church and go home and just live the same old how. This morning, I said my intention is not to make you feel guilty. My intention is to be able to draw you closer. Isaiah chapter 54 verse 2. We are challenged to enlarge the place of our tents. We are challenged. We are challenged to enlarge the place of our tents. To lengthen our cords and to strengthen our stakes. This morning, church, I want to adjure every one of you that it must be your lifelong mission to be able to become a meaningful believer in the house of the Lord. Man, that you are not decorations, you're not ornaments in the church, but you stand here as fit for purpose individuals that will take this church into the next century, that will take this church until Jesus comes into heaven. I know that you have a purpose. I know you have a plan today. The thing that I want to render to you this morning, that whilst Jesus came to this boat, as he stood there, as he looked at the pitiful state that these not yet disciples were, they were standing there. They were fishermen by trade. This is all they knew. This is what they were masters at, and yet they failed hopelessly in delivery. You know what? Some of us are sitting on the touchline. We have been so mighty, powerful craftsmen in the craft that God has given us. Man, whether you are owning a business, or whether you are in ministry, or whether you are in your secular jobs, an accountant, or you a pen pusher, or you a street sweeper, or whatever your preoccupation is, but you're a master at your craft. And somehow you are feeling right now the emptiness of knowing that whatever you're doing is futile because it is not bringing the due rewards. I want you to let Jesus to step into that scenario for you this morning. That your jobs may become more meaningful. That your jobs will change, that He will change the face of your craft in order that you may be good at it and that you may be powerful. The second point that I want to draw home to you this morning is the point of immediacy and urgency. Look, a lot of us, there's a common Afrikaans saying, "Môre is nog 'n dag." It means tomorrow is another day. What you can do tomorrow, you leave to tomorrow. And we've lived our lives forever procrastinating. And this scripture shows us two things: immediacy and urgency. Jesus came, he saw the barrenness, he saw the futility of the work of these people, and he says to them, immediately, put out, launch out into the deep, go and place your nets where it belongs. And the first thing that we greeted with, like every one of us, if I tell you to become urgent and become immediate in your attention to detail, you know what is your first thing? Your first response is to give me an excuse why you couldn't all this time. Man, if you want to become the world's greatest singer, and if you've got a voice, like I always speak, you could sing like a nightingale. And you know what? You are so gifted. But if you sit there saying, I'm waiting for somebody to launch me, I promise you, even if a jet launches you, you will never take off. Why? Because you have not created the immediacy and the urgency for you to reach that ultimate destination for you. That's what I'm speaking about this morning. Is that you get up. If there's something that you needed to do, my thing is I need to finish my thesis. That's the first thing that I'm going to attend to this year. I'm going to propel myself out of get off my laurels and get onto my laurels and start getting this work done. I'm starting to put pen to paper, starting to add some color to my life right now. I need to get it done immediately and urgently. Look, the shallow end of where we are was not intended for fishing boats to trawl. I'm not sure you're getting this message this morning. When I speak about fit for purpose this morning, I'm saying to you, church, that you've got to understand your environment. Boats, those fishing boats, we're not supposed to trawl in shallow waters because rocks will get to them, they will run aground, and before they know it, they won't exist. Now, lots of us are busy in this ministry putting our foot in the water. You know, like the little kids, where do you find the little kids playing? The only kid that I know that wants to play in the deep end is my daughter. When she was 3 years old, or even younger, she would point right inside, and she was not happy playing in the shallow end. Man, I have to come and leave swimming in the deep end and come and grab her, and only then she was the pig in the proverbial. She was happy as anything. Man, she was in her elements. And whilst there are so many kids are content in playing in the water, listen, your puerile nature, that means your childish nature, your puerile nature will get you nowhere you will get no enjoyment by just running to the waves, and it breaks a little bit, the foamy thing gets on your feet, and you get out of there and think this is fun. I want to tell you something. Unless you get out in the deep, unless when the big waves smack on you, and unless when you really engulfed by these big waves, man, the adrenaline starts pumping. All of these things start coming to the fore. And I'm saying to you today, quit playing in the shallow end. It's not meant for fishing boats to trawl. It's not meant for people that really wants to make a catch in this world. It's not meant for people that have a purpose and a plan. It's not meant for you that you are tinkering around with little businesses. You are tinkering around with having as long as you can have many forks in the fire, you think you're okay. I want to tell you something. I want you to get serious this year. I want to see businessmen emerge from here, not because we can get a good offering. Listen, man, I don't need your money. God doesn't need it. And I say this to you again. This is a wealthy church. We have the wealth sitting inside of you. And if you could come here and understand that God's called you for a purpose, that you're not supposed to be trolling in the shallow end, that God deserves a catch to be planted in your boat. And it only comes from trolling in the deep end. I don't know if you're getting this message. What am I speaking about? Why do I speak against spiritual shallowness? The thing that it speaks about is spiritual complacency. When you are complacent with just tipping your toes at the edge of the shallow end of the beach. Man, there are a lot of people that will go through life being complacent. You don't want any more drama. Man, Rodney, you don't want any car that won't start in the morning. You don't want to travel by taxi to work. You don't want to know the pain of coming late at night without having the luxury of a car that will take you to and fro. You don't know what it is. You don't want this in your life. You want the easy way out. Don't we all? Who wants trouble? We don't want trouble. But I can tell you something, and I want to share this testimony with you this morning. You know, many of you that I sat and I explained one-to-one my testimony. I live life on the edge. I mean, at 57, I still play soccer. I live on the edge. I'm not saying I'm going to keel over and die. If it happens, it happens. I live life on the edge. When I had no money, I bought a house. I mean, listen, man, I'm telling you, this is how I live life. When I went in, I would go into a job, not having the prerequisite skill, nor the talent, nothing. I go into a job that is higher than me. And before I know it, in 3 months, I'm master of that job. You know what? I'm a risk taker. There's a law that says, the higher the risk, the higher the return. The lower the risk, the lower the return. But look at your monetary system in the world. See where, go and put your money in the bank. It's the most safest place you can put it. I don't advise anybody putting money in any organization right now because the risk is high. They'll promise you 29% while the bank might give you 6%. But today, I'm making you risk takers. I'm making you people that will get out and quit playing in the shallow end and getting out and coming out of your complacent comfort zone and going to some place where God can use you mightily. The lack of sacrifice or sacrificial commitment, shallow end does that to you. It makes you lack commitment. That's why when we come to you and say, tell me, how can you be used in the ministry? You tell us 101 ways how you can't be used. And I say, you know what? I know that your life is crying out. Angelo shared with me so powerfully how the Lord is ministering to you in his business, in all the places, how the Lord is starting to minister. How the Lord, I even spoke to Bev, and Bev says, Pastor, you don't know how many mouths are open that I need to feed. And we've had one crisis to the next. But you know what? God is faithful. God is faithful. God realizes there are so many mouths that these guys take care of. So many people that they are patriarchs to them. You see, we lack the sacrificial commitment. We don't know what it is because we're busy playing in the shallow end. It also speaks about the Laodicean lukewarmness. The Bible speaks about being tepid, being lukewarm. It says you'll either be hot or cold. Don't be tepid. Don't. You know what? Take the stand, man. If you have not taken a stand, young lady, if you have not taken a stand in your life right now, take the stand today. Say, I want to jump from the shallow end, from the barrenness into plentiful. I want to get there. I want to get there. I'm going to give you the theology just now. But let me get to the moral obligation this morning. Moral loyalty and moral lackadaisicalness, where we're so lackadaisical about everything we do. Well, there's this certain laity in the way we run our lives here. I mean, we come and go like the waters, come to the edge of the shore and return. We do this motion all our lives and wonder, how come we're not getting the desired result? The height of madness or the height of insanity. Is anybody doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? That's the height of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again and you're expecting a different result. I mean, isn't that insane? How can you get that? Let's change the landscape. Materialism, shallowness causes us to be materialistic. And it also speaks about spiritual bankruptcy. The reason that you would not go for the highest return is because you are afraid of the risk. Church, I am laying it thick on you this morning. I'm laying it thick on you this morning. The reason you are spiritually bankrupt is that you will not, you refrain and you're too scared to go for the highest return because of the risk. Let's go and understand the deep. I spoke about the shallow. You see, this deep speaks about unrelenting evangelism in this context. What do I mean by that? Elias will tell you that when we were giving out pamphlets, as much as we prayed over those pamphlets and we said, Lord, let none of these pamphlets ever return void, the work that it's supposed to do. One thing further to that, we prayed, we said, Lord, let these pamphlets speak out. Speak out. That when people put it down, they must pick it up immediately. They can put it down, they must pick it up. It must start to speak volumes. Just ordinary piece of paper with some ink on it. You see, that's what God can do, church. Just an ordinary soul like you. Just an ordinary soul. Somebody that has been taken for granted all your life. In the hands of an evangelist. Young Elias. Standing there and issuing this pamphlet. There comes Nelson picking up a pamphlet. Right? There's the product of the work that you did the other day. And there's the product of their work. Pamphlet. And he troubled his wife and he said, we have to go to this church. We have to go to this church. The pamphlet was starting to speak. What am I saying to you this morning? Is that unrelenting evangelism means that you would not back down because the first day you handed the pamphlet and nobody came. Imagine if I back down, Elias, you know you haven't been here for a while. Did you see what the Lord has done? Imagine if I back down at the first instance when we saw the multitude of empty chairs. Where would we be today? We're robbing God of the catch of the century. We're robbing God of the future evangelists of this church. We're robbing God of the ability to propel men and women that God is busy preparing to enter into a threshold of power and glory. We're robbing them. That's what we've done when we relent doing our evangelism. When we see empty boats and futile work, we give up so easily. And Deep says, when you're in the deep, there's nowhere to go. You're in the deep. How many of you have been deep sea fishing here before? Yeah. When you see the waves around you, if something happens to the boat, it's you and the watery grave. There's nowhere to go. And that's the type of unrelenting we need in the believers. That when they're going, they would get the job done. The next thing, Deep speaks about, I like this. I put this down and I thought this was fantastic. Have you ever seen a fishing boat in a swimming pool? It does sound funny, isn't that so? Have you ever seen a fishing boat in a swimming pool? So why are you trying to catch fish in your pool? Why are you continuing in the vein that you are every single day of your life, that you are continuing this way, and you would not understand that there's no fish? I said this is going to be a message of note. Simon Peter, by his own admission, said, we fished all night. We fished all night and we caught nothing. In other words, we've been going with our fishing boat in a swimming pool and going in circles, creating waves in our pools, but not getting the dew we want. What I'm showing you here is this is where I want you to be like the Simon Peter. That when the master comes to you, remember, I want you to show your inadequacy. Don't tell him I'm a group accountant. Please don't do that. Don't tell him I'm the CEO of this company. Don't. Rather tell him, Lord, I am useless. I am hopeless, Lord. I know nothing, Lord. Because I tell you what, it's going to get you into greatness. Look at what Simon Peter said. The greatest fishermen, these guys knew how to catch fish. This was their trade. And he said, we fished all night and we caught nothing. What I'm trying to show you here this morning is that by your own hand, you will not be able to take yourself and propel yourself to anything of greatness. By your own. But by your own admission, see what's going to happen. Just by you confessing your inadequacies. Never mind, Lord, I know this fishing business. But today, I've just done it. And I realized that nothing in my power was able to fill the boats. I'm going to introduce a word to you today. I like new words. I'm a wordsmith. And I want you to become one. The word is called efficacy. E-F-F. It's not a party. E-F-F-I-C-A-C-Y. And that party cannot bring any efficacy to this world. Okay? Efficacy. What does it mean? The ability to bring something to a desired end. Like I'm going to bring this message to a desired end now. The ability to be able to bring something to a desired, intended end. Let's put it that way. When you come to the Lord and you say to the Lord, I tried all night. Your intentions were good. Your intentions were good. But your inadequacy is there. Your inadequacy is there. Remember, you cannot command the sea like Jesus did. So, it's a good place to start. Peter knew from the beginning, from the personal experience of Christ's wonderful ministry. And he knew that it could carry a full guarantee of success. He knew that. And so he came to know and to trust, here's this word, the efficacy. To know and trust the efficacy of God's unfailing methods. And that's what I want you to trust in today. Trust in the ability for God to bring you to your desired end. Will you trust God with that this morning? You know what Jeremiah 29:11 says? I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper. Plans to give you a desired end. That's where I want you. I want you to the deep. That's why I'm telling you, cast out on the other side into the deep. Come on, cast out. This morning, cast your mind. Zechariah chapter 4 verse 6 says, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Launching into the deep does not depend on man's wisdom. It does not depend on your cleverness. It does not depend on our sophisticated programming. It does not depend on larger budgets. I tell you what, you give people more money and they still will not deliver. We've seen projects happen in our own business that way. People are throwing more money at things and the worse they become. Look at our illness. We throw more money. We throw more money at it. And you know what? We seem never to be coming right with our health. It's time that we say it's not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. And that's what it must be, by the Spirit of the Lord. Lastly, I say to you this morning, it's going to take two things: obedience and availability. And let me tie this message up neatly for you. The boats were barren, the nets were being washed in futility. And Jesus comes along, brings an efficacy to the believers. And he says to them right now, go and cast on the other side. So they go and cast the nets on the other side. Then he says, listen, every one of you, if you were not obedient, I cannot fathom that this story would be so well documented in the Bible. Imagine if Simon Peter said to the Lord, are you crazy? Are you telling a fisherman how to fish and where to cast nets? I mean, I do this for my livelihood. Imagine if one day, if just one moment, it came to the head of Simon Peter. Sorry, let me give you the theology here quickly. If you go and read about Simon Peter, one of the worst things that this guy possessed, he had an attitude of note. He was an abrasive man. Got to listen to this because it's gonna culminate in something powerful. He was an abrasive man. Remember, he was schooled in the school of Gamaliel, one of the astute scholars of the time. So he had the knowledge, he had the backing, he had the favor, he had people's backing. He was a top man. And now, when you argue with this man, when you come and give him a piece of your mind, he's not going to take it too kindly, especially if he knows that you are a carpenter and you're not a fisherman. Don't let me, a simple pen pusher or a guy that knows how to preach the gospel, come and tell you how to do things. If that's how obstinate you want to be. Simon Peter said, we fished all night. We cast our nets all night. We caught nothing. Nevertheless, by your word. Nevertheless, by your word. The only two things that is going to make you great this year, 2018. I want you to put this in your, no, sorry, I must not encourage smoking. I said I was nearly going to say, put this in your pipe and smoke it. No. What I mean is the only thing that the only thing that you put in your arsenal today, that in every arrow that you take out, henceforth, that it will reach every target that you set forth to accomplish. And that's two things: obedience and availability. don't question the source. When I say don't question the source, if it's coming from your friend, I'll say question it. But when I say if it's coming from God, never question it. Say, Lord, here am I, use me. Here am I, use me. I don't know what's God fashioning you for this year, but I can see greatness. I see wealth. Man, I get excited when I see wealthy believers, and I'm not talking about money. They say only a pastor has the ability to extort money. But I'm the one with the difference. I'm the one with the difference. I don't need your money. I don't need your money. I'm interested in your life. I'm interested in your obedience. That's why I give you Luke chapter 5, verse 1 to 11. It will bring a change to you this morning. I'm going to ask you to stand. The Bible says in Psalms 42, verse 7. I'm going to put the cherry on the top now. I'm going to put the cherry on the top. And I'm speaking to deep people this morning. Not deep purple, deep people. Psalms 42, verse 7. Deep calls to the deep. See, I wasn't wrong. I'm deep. I'm now calling to you, the deep. And if you will answer this call this morning, I promise to make you fishers of men. I promise you that your livelihood will abound. I promise you that your businesses will flourish. I promise you that your lifestyle will change. Your health will go from 0 to hero. Man, I'm telling you that you are not going to be compelled to be sitting in these pews, but you're going to get out here. I mean, already I saw a worship team that is ready to take on the world. I'm telling you, there's a group of workers that are getting excited to get out and do the work of the Master and be called good and faithful. I pray this message is encouraging this morning. As the deep calls to the deep this morning. As iron sharpens iron this morning. Won't you respond? As we bow our heads, nobody looking around. If you believe that you're the deep, and I've just called unto you right now, I want you to come right here, nobody looking around. Don't waste time, just come out. The deep calls to the deep. Come out.